I'm Ron Reader, and this is Ron Reader Digs the Universe. And today's topic is magic. I have been growing increasingly concerned in recent years about what appears to be a societal embrace of magic as a real-world notion, accompanied by what some are calling magical thinking, which is a belief that one event results from another without any rational causation in between. Now, it seems to me, from my point of view as a kid in the 1970s, that we didn't used to be like this. Nobody believed in ghosts back then. No spooks, no goblins. The UFO movement was out there for sure and was picking up steam, but they were still very much seen as a tinfoil hat crowd. The pro-life movement hadn't even started yet, and it appeared that publicly, at least, science guided American attitudes on the issue of abortion. We had put a man on the moon. We had conquered polio. Social scientists had given us the goods on gender, race, and sexuality. We were a science and fact-based society. That was the zeitgeist. Science will lead the way. At least, that's how it seemed to me from my tender young age. What the hell happened? In deep hindsight, it seems to me that the 80s were when things started getting weird. There were three major developments happening all around the same time. First, we see the rise of the evangelical movement, which preached to the nation its magic notions regarding the soul and the fetus. They dabbled in magic god powers for healing and for material prosperity, and embraced magical angels and demons as real beings doing their thing right here on Earth. They asserted a magical end times narrative with all manner of magic events and creatures as real, factual information. Halloween became a forbidden day of black magic. Now, the evangelicals were also something of a fringe at that point in the 1980s, confined mostly to the South, but they were definitely on the move. Second, in the 80s, all of the hippie, cosmic, Fleetwood Mackiness of the 70s appeared to galvanize into the New Age spiritual movement. Potions, oils, crystals, harmonic convergences, astrology, homeopathicism, and quack medicine. Vague spiritual ideas about how to alter material reality with thought and meditation. It was the left-wing version of where the evangelicals were headed at that point, and the New Agers numbers were also growing. Third development in the 80s, and I think that of these three, that this is probably the most subtle and insidious of them all. HIV, as the idea was constructed publicly in the 80s, affected the American subconscious. In her book, AIDS, Social Change, and Theater, Cindy Kistenberg, my cultural rhetoric professor from back in the day at University of Houston downtown, she asserts Mary Povey's social thought equation. Sex equals sin equals death, as being the unspoken subtext to public discussion during the AIDS crisis. Ostensibly a secular discussion, it was really one that was just dripping with moral religious judgment, that is to say, magical judgment. Remember, as I discussed in my Easter Grinch episode a few weeks back, sin doesn't mean evil. Now, this is an important distinction to make, sin, evil, because we are talking, sin means not pleasing God, right? You want to please God. It's not good, evil, it's pleasing God, not pleasing God. Sin is not pleasing God. This is an important distinction to make because this is a magical God who who makes his list and checks it twice and sends hurricanes to kill gay people. You know, man, even the atheists were pulled into this kind of judgmental thinking without realizing it. Thus, our national understanding of AIDS in the 1980s was a magical understanding, as a sort of a cultural undertow. What a fucked up decade. Got worse. In the 90s, all of this shit went mainstream. New Age just sort of became the age in which we're living. Holistic and crystal shops sprang up all over the place. Supermarkets even had their own homeopathic remedy sections next to the vitamins. Daytime talk shows started cycling in. Spiritual advisors, healers, mediums, and prognosticators to their crowded stripper, trailer trash, drag queen, freak show lineups. People started describing themselves vaguely as spiritual rather than religious. Kooky self-help gurus who had already been around a long time, they started booking corporate gigs. New Age spiritualism and quack medicine became as common and available in the 1990s as Madonna was. You know, because she's on every corner, slutting it up. Yeah, I crack myself up. Meanwhile, as I observed last week, Republican efforts to woo Southern voters in their party had become so successful that Southern political and cultural attitudes became the GOP's mainstream. And one of those cultural attitudes was evangelical magic. It was slow going at first, and there was a little bit of secular Republican resistance, most notably from John McCain when he was running for president in 2000. But evangelical magic was irresistible. By the early 2010s, creationism and various other peculiar beliefs became the Republican Party's point of view, indicating a total embrace of magic over science. Now you couple the Republican intellectual collapse with the ascendance of the New Age, and it becomes pretty clear that in the 21st century, America is devolving. This brings us to right now. Today, it appears that left and right-wing magic have evolved into just believe whatever the fuck you want, and if you challenge me, I am gonna freak the fuck out on you. You ever try confronting a pro-lifer or an anti-vaxxer with facts? Yeah, exactly. These days, a lot of people consider facts to be rude. No shit, rude. From paranormal investigators, ancient aliens, and bullshit Oprah rags to riches stories on TV to QAnon conspiracists, believers in Iraqi weapons of mass destruction, and coronavirus deniers, anything goes. Whatever you want to be true is true. Needless to say, this is a frightening state of affairs. At best, believers in magic fall prey to scammers. Like the landscaping truck that has a Christian fish symbol on it. Dude could be an axe murderer, but magic Christians instantly trust him, thinking him to be a magic Christian too. Or the trippy cosmic personas displayed by workers in crystal shops. These people, they're really one with the universe. I'd better buy a couple $100 then. At worst, though, well, I think we're seeing the worst right now. Belief in magic by way of how it's affecting, the response to COVID-19 has killed over 100,000 Americans. And Americans are continuing to die. Magic is destroying us. Now, no coffee, so I bring it all back home. Now, I am cool with your salvation, or your meditation, or your placebo spirit remedies, or your prayers for guidance or strength. That's about your personal, subjective relationship with the universe, about your personal identity. I don't talk about it much myself, but I too feel my own connection to the universe, whatever you want to call it. So I get it. There are some benevolent uses for magic and thinking about magic. But I don't think I really need to argue much to get you to see a direct connection between liberal bourgeois anti-vaxxer attitudes and measles outbreaks at schools and daycare centers in bourgeois neighborhoods. To draw a direct line between angels and demons surround us doing spiritual warfare over our souls to Jesus will protect us from COVID-19, so let us all congregate together and breathe on each other. This shit is totally out of hand, and we desperately need to rein it in. Because if we all just keep believing whatever the fuck we want to believe, we're screwed. I'm Ron Reeder, and this has been Ron Reeder Digs the Universe. Join me, Ron Reeder, again next week for another episode of Ron Reeder Digs the Universe. Alakazam. I am a little coronafish, swimming in the sea of COVID. Glug, glug. If you catch me, I will give you 3 wishes. Glug, glug, glug.